Welcome everybody to the Monday morning call with Paul. Like to introduce our special guest, Ayman, who is pretty new to the team here. He came with all of Goldbridge United from a practice company that a lot of us came from. Super excited to just kind of break down some stuff we talked about over the weekend. A lot of people didn't see, but it was just me and Ayman for most of the morning on Sunday morning. I know a lot of you guys don't like to work those weekends, but we were pounding it out. So, hey, man,
Yes,
welcome.
sir.
And man, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What got you into life insurance in the first place?
Yeah, man, glad to be here. So for me, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short, but
Oh, we
um,
got time, man.
yeah. So I mean, the past 3 years of my life haven't been too great. I've been bouncing around job to job, opportunity to opportunity, and
Yeah.
nothing's really been playing out at all. I think the breaking point for me was like 2022 December. I walked into my organic chemistry 2 final,
Hmm.
and I was going to college at Purdue. I was trying to become a doctor, and I probably would have ended up doing it.
Hmm.
But I went into this organic chemistry 2 final, studied for probably 30 hours within 2 days, nonstop, like 4 energy drinks. It was ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then I show up to this exam. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. First page, I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, I don't know these answers. Second page, I'm like, oh, I don't know these ones either. Third page, that's when I was like, oh, this is not going to go very well. So, so I actually got up. It's like the most cliche story. I got up, I handed my blank exam to the teacher and walked out. And I never went back to college. I was done. I was so
Man,
done.
that actually sounds like a movie.
It's
Yeah,
literally, yeah.
yeah,
And the funniest part was I only needed like a 68% or something to pass
uh,
that. But for
yeah.
those of you who know, like in STEM, in like biology and those classes, a 68% is actually like a 30 or a 40% because of how heavily they curve those exams. So I didn't even need to pass the actual test. I needed like a decent score, and
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
if
even know one answer on there.
yeah,
So,
first three pages pretty much lets you know you're probably not going to pass even on the
yep,
curve, right?
yep,
So,
yep.
why do you think it didn't catch on for you?
I
Like, what
mean,
was it in the 30 hours of? Was it
I
just because
mean,
you too much at the end crammed in, or?
I wouldn't even say that because I'm not like stupid by any means, right? I did pretty well in school for the most part of my life. Had really good
Yeah.
grades, like good offers and everything like that. I think it just once I got to college, it just stopped working with my brain. It got to a point where, um, because in high school it's like, oh, you have to do this, right? When I got to college, it's what do you actually want to do? And at that point, I was like, I don't want to do any of this. So,
Yeah. Oh, that
th-
does change the game for you, right? Yeah,
exactly, right?
internally, yeah.
The ball's in your court when you get to college. So for me, it was like, well, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to go to school for 12 years. And when it comes down to it, like, just being in business for 12 years versus being in school for 12 years, I mean, it's kind of a
It
no-brainer, right?
it could have a much better trajectory for sure.
Exactly, right.
Well, hey, you did
Um,
better than me, man. I lived close to a party college, and that was the extent of my college
mhm,
education was going to
yeah,
those parties, right? Well,
yeah,
not even in college, just going to those parties. That was my extent. So, yeah, man, at least you got in there and you kind of
yeah,
realized for you what was going to work and what wasn't going to
mm-hmm,
work.
100%. And then,
Yeah,
so I dropped out basically. Told my parents they weren't too happy about it.
I can
Um,
imagine.
but yeah, but they saw how negatively it was affecting me. They saw I hated it there. But
Yeah.
basically all I did was party and then show up to these exams, right? And I was actually doing pretty good for, not even doing that much work. But I didn't want to be there. The money I was paying, everything I was doing for that, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So then I actually ended up getting my gaming license and becoming a dealer at a casino. And
Really?
yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. But since it was a newly opened casino, it was the one in Chicago.
Uh,
So many problems with scheduling, so many problems with all the new, the department heads and whatnot. They had no idea what was going on. So one day, actually, it was Razi that brought me into the insurance. He posted on social media about like how much AP he did that week, and I'm sitting there looking at my measly like $2,000 check, and I'm looking at this, I'm looking at his, and I'm like, what am I doing?
yeah.
I was like, what
Well,
have I been doing?
I'm sure people are obviously going to want to know how the transition was, but I know a lot of people here are going to want to know, is there any tricks to the gaming, right? Like, is there ways to win? I already know, and
Oh
Harold's going to be
yes,
one of the
oh
first people
yes,
to ask.
yes, 100%. There's
Like, go
definitely a way to do that.
give us two tricks.
I think counting cards is obviously a gimme.
Yeah.
And
So
the
that
funniest part is that
blackjack then.
yeah, yeah, and counting cards is actually so similar to insurance. It sounds funny, but it actually is. It's a long-term game, like with discipline and the right process, you will succeed. The whole point is like it's a 52% to 50 to 48% edge. And
Uh,
if you just do the same thing repeatedly, following the process, you're going to beat the casino at some point, which is why they
yeah.
kick you out if you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the same thing as insurance. You follow the process, you will succeed.
What other game is people play that would actually give them better odds? Because obviously
Um,
slot machines usually give you the worst odds from what I hear, but
Yeah, honestly, no other game in casino is worth playing, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Unless you are a good poker player. That's
Yeah.
like, and that's a skill-based game. So it's poker and blackjack. You're playing anything else, you're torching money,
I, I,
essentially.
Ion's trying to give you a little bit of game in chat, man. Like,
Yeah. Hey, when we were at the Red Rock convention in Vegas, Cole and Elvis witnessed me multiply some money there. That was a fun one.
well, I'll make sure next time Vegas
Yeah.
that you and I are hanging out very
Yeah,
close.
yeah, we
Yeah,
could we
yeah.
could definitely.
All right, man. Well, hey, kind of jumping back into the insurance part, right?
Mhm.
Like, obviously the money attracted to you that
Yeah.
Rozzy posted, right?
Yep.
But even then, sometimes people just feel like it's a dream being sold, right?
Mhm.
So, what steps did you kind of take to kind of check it out, and then what finally kind of cemented, like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah. So at the practice company, we had what's called a career night, right?
Mhm,
So I told Rozzy, I'm like, I'm super interested. Like, what do I have to do?
mhm.
He's like, hey, we have a career night Monday. Just come out, like, meet the CEO, like, say hi to everybody, and see what happens. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll be there. I show up, and yeah, let's just say it was quite a sight to see. Um, our office was basically like a playground. There was like a basketball hoop, there was a pool table, there was like a bunch of kids sitting in hoodies and sweatpants and whatnot. And I was looking around in my suit. I'm like, what? I was mind blown. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like, it threw me off quite a bit, right? But then they gave a couple speeches, right? A bunch of the top producers, leaders, they all came and gave a speech, and I was like, okay, wait a second. Like these people seem like they know what they're talking about. They seem pretty successful. Um, it looks better than what I'm doing right now. At the casino, I think the main red flag for me was that, I mean, it was good money. Like, don't get me wrong. It was
Yeah,
like
because you're getting
upper,
tipped out on chips
yeah,
too,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it came out to like upper five figures, almost six figures. Like, it was a pretty good job. But
Yeah.
for me, it was 2 hours away. So I would be driving an hour and a half, 2 hours to work every day.
Yeah.
And
No.
on top of that, there was a hard salary cap in that industry. Meaning, like,
Mm,
even if you're the general manager of the casino, your
mhm.
salary's not going above 350,000. That's like the peak. That's like as high as you can go. And for me, that's
Right.
like a very low ceiling.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I was like, yeah, I looked around at all the people around me, and I didn't really like the environment I was in. So, and then just on top of that, dealing with all those customers, drunk people, it's a lot. It's a lot over time. So,
Well,
what's that?
I was gonna say we had an office too
Hmm.
with FFL in Salt Lake
Yeah.
before everything kind of went transferred to selling from home and selling in virtually, and we had all that same stuff too. We had the ping
Hmm.
pong table, there was partitions where everybody could sit and sell it. It was a great time.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, you could have fun while selling too. Mostly it was used for booking, and then when we moved into the virtual sell, people would come for to sell virtually, and then we opened it up where you could basically hire people from any state, which has made like big changes in insurance industry in general. I mean, think about how many different people are here on the Zoom and how many different
Right.
states and cities they're in, and we're all working together. So yeah, I remember those days, man. The basketball hoop, the ping pong table. Samir will tell you he was one of the best ping pong players, out there. And, we'll pretend like that's true, you know?
We'll pretend. We'll
Yeah.
pretend. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it really came down just I was tired of where I was at, and then I came to the practice company, and it actually got worse. So,
It actually got talk about
it
it.
somehow got worse. I sat there for 3 months. I saved out about $2,000 in my bank account. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Uh-huh.
Let's get this going. All right. And then I was working super hard. I understood the script, and my upline, Ion, Rozzy, they were pretty happy. They're like, hey, like, you're good at this, like, you'll be good. And
Mhm.
then my first 3 months, no sale.
Wow.
So I was going to the office every day except Sunday for 12 hours a day, 12 to 14 hours a day,
Uh-huh.
making 600 calls a day, talking to as many people as possible. And that was off about 200 leads a month. So I'm calling all these people. I'm trying so hard to get this sale, and nothing. Yeah, and like you said in the chat, every day I'm pulling up in a suit. I'm trying as hard as I can to get this sale, and it was making me tear my hair out. And I think the main thing is, like, where I developed most of my sales skills was that 3 months, because all of that rejection, every time I got a no, I made it my sole goal to figure out how to never take that no again.
So
You know,
you were at the practice company for 3 months, suited and booted, trying to make a sell,
Mhm.
while Amir is here selling,
Yep.
10 grand a week in his
Yep.
underwear,
Yep.
right? And not putting in the 12-hour
Mhm.
days. Wow, man.
100%.
Yeah.
And it killed me. It tore away at me. It genuinely broke me down at some point.
Yeah.
It was like the craziest thing ever.
But
And
don't you
eventually,
don't don't you feel like that from that experience though, it really taught you how to run your own business though? Like, because people think, oh, if I'm running my own business, I could work whenever I want. But
Hmm.
truly, if you're doing it for your business, then you're going to put in those 10, 12-hour days if it
Yeah,
calls for it, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
100%. I still
Yeah.
do that sometimes. Honestly, I bumped it down a little bit recently because
Yeah.
I've figured out like a process. But yeah, there's still days where I'm on the call 12 hours because I have to be, because
Yeah.
I have 10 appointments, or I have this much going on. But yeah, I mean, that still 100% happens. But I think the biggest thing is that those 3 months
Mhm.
are like what made me good in this industry, like remotely good, because I learned like all the rejection was crammed into 3 months, to the point where like it's very hard to quit after that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because you feel like
In
you
order,
poured so
yeah,
much into it, right? And it's
exactly.
got to pay out at some point, right?
Exactly. And for
Yeah.
me, like I said this at when we were in Vegas, like my ego's too big to quit. I feel like that's what it is in this business, you know?
It's
Um,
true. Yeah.
like a lot of the times people can't quit because they see this guy's doing it, this guy's doing it.
Yeah.
Like
Why
I
not
need to
me?
make this happen. I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
make this happen.
For
And that's
sure.
what it was for me. I was literally that's what like I said, like I was at the practice company, stupid people were making stupid money, and I was like, I can't lose here. Like I really refuse. Like I can't. So that's why I just went for 3 months. You know, 99% of people probably would give up at some point.
Mhm.
You know, I'm lucky to be in a situation where like I don't pay like my own rent. I don't, you know, have a family to feed or anything like that. So for me, it was like I have a little room to breathe, right? For other people, they probably aren't even allowed to do that kind of stuff. You know, it
Yeah.
probably would start to put pressure on their family. You know,
For
and at
sure.
some point, it would
Yeah.
be a little difficult to spend 3 months without a dollar of income.
Man,
So yeah.
when we came over from the practice company, we sold ourselves a policy to take that money to buy leads. And then if we
Mm-hmm.
didn't make money off that lead, you were out the business right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very different environment than what we've created because we don't want people to go through that same type of pressure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that pressure, it either breaks pipes or builds diamonds, right? So
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
yeah, so it's been amazing, man. You know, one of the things I thought that was really important, that the main reason why I wanted you to be here was, we always talk about practice companies, what's so great about the culture here, and we could talk
Mm-hmm.
about that all day long.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to get down to, what you specialize in is which taking your agents and the performance they're currently at and then raising the bar for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of walk us through, like pretend, if you want, I'm one of those agents, and then just kind of walk us through step by step what you do that helps level up that agent.
Yeah. So the very first thing we've been doing, and Ayan's been enforcing this on us since day one, is metrics. So
Mhm.
the first thing we do is track our numbers. Okay. If you aren't tracking your numbers, you're already in like a weird situation. Okay. So we track dials, appointments, presentations, and sales. Okay. Because if you track everything you need to track, then you can see where the problems are. Okay. So the first thing, new agent comes in the business, making 1,000 calls a day, sets 10 appointments, 1 presentation. Now you're thinking, okay, you set 10 appointments, you only had 1 presentation. Your show rate is 10%. You can identify the problems. Oh, you
Yeah.
had 10 presentations this week, you only had 1 sale. There has to be something wrong with your presentation. So if you identify what the problems are, then you can see what's going on. Oh, hey, you only made 200 dials this today. You know, you only made 200 dials, you only set 2 appointments. Don't you think if you bump your numbers up, something better would happen? It's all about finding the problem. And you can't find the problem if you have no numbers or stats to go off of.
Yeah. And so let's kind of give 2 scenarios that agents you spoke with in the last couple of weeks and how it helped them. Give us like very specific.
This is a very funny one. Alea, she just made her first sale. You guys saw that, right?
Yeah.
This was just last week. No, this was like a few days ago. I was sitting there talking to Alea, and I'm talking to, her upline payroll. I'm talking to them like, hey, like, you need to make more calls. You make more calls, you are going to sell. I promise you. I told her, like, I made a bet with her. I said, if you take longer to make your first sale than I did, I will pay you out of pocket. All right. I will pay you
Mhm.
$1,000. She's like, you take it. But next day, she gets on the call and makes like 100 calls instantly on the spot, closes one, So it's
Mhm.
literally you put the pressure on the downline a little bit. Right. And just like Harold said, she just started. She went straight to Vegas, met the whole team, and it was
Yeah.
like an eye opener for her. And then, and I feel like another thing is just seeing everybody produce around her, the people on her team producing, that pushed her to be like, I need to make this happen. And then
Right.
literally the day after we talked to her about it, she made a sale
Boom, just like that.
just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like true in most industries, right? You put in the work and you're going to see results. And I think
Mm-hmm.
and I talked about this in the last Monday call. There's a lot of talented people that are naturally talented, but it doesn't always translate to success for them because you need discipline and you need consistency in order to make that a success story. It's why I love Anthony Amaker so much. He's always so consistent all the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's super important. It's good that people got to go to the Vegas trip. Everybody got to meet each other, but not just that, they got to see that the people that are consistent are the ones that are making the consistent money as well.
Exactly.
So yeah. So let's say some metrics, right? Let's say I'm doing 200 dials a day. I'm setting 8 to 10 appointments a day, and I'm having 4 sits on average in one sale. What's sort of the process that you would sit with me then? What would you do to help me increase my sales to 2, 3, 4 in 4 sits?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, just to give you my stats, just to compare, like right now, I'm making about anywhere from 300 to 500 calls a day.
Mhm.
And I actually just bought the CRM. I folded. I officially went to the dark side. I swore I would never do it, but I'm doing it. I'm overwhelmed. There's too many clients to reach out to. So I officially got the CRM. But without that, what I've been doing is 300 to 500 calls a day, booking anywhere from 6 to 12 appointments a day, and
Mhm.
running 2 to 4 presentations a day.
Okay.
But on my 2 to 4 presentations, as of now, my close rate's about 75, 80%. Meaning, like, if I get on the phone with somebody, there's a very high chance they're running an application with me. That's just how this is how it goes with me. Now, for that close rate, I feel like part of it is just what I learned in my past 9 months. It's longevity. Okay, I think the biggest thing about this business is time. Like everybody says, if you last in this business, you are going to succeed at some point. At some point,
Yeah, that's
at
true.
some the knowledge you're going to have, all the experience you're going to have, if you retain that, it's going to be, it's just like a, an exponential like growth at some point, to the point where you're going to know so much that it's very hard for clients to say no to you at points.
Mhm.
I've gotten to a point where my presentations are even not as much sales skill, but now it's just like I know enough about the products to talk to them in a way where they're like, oh, this guy's the expert. This guy
Mhm.
knows what he's talking about.
Mhm.
I get on Zoom with them too. I'm in a suit. I look like I have a full family. I'm 40 years old, so they're like, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about annuities until Ty told me like the past month. But
Mhm.
the funniest part, our client that we have for the annuity, after we sent in his suitability, he asked me, he said, hey, is there a way for me to put you guys in my trust so that when I die, the money goes to you guys to reinvest for my family?
Mhm.
And me, like a 22-year-old insurance agent, I'm sitting there like, what? I was, I was like, you want me to handle your trust?
Yeah.
I was like, that's insane. I was like, yeah, I got you. I don't know how long
Yeah.
I'll be around, but
Harold
let me
said, "Yeah,
know.
let me hold that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, let me know. I got you. Don't worry about it. I got your trust. All good. So it's like that, where I think the biggest thing to increase your close rate is if you're not the expert, at least look like it. Okay,
Mhm.
sound like it. Okay, the uhs, the ums, the oh, let me check really quickly. Those really scare clients off. When you just spit back answers at them and give them recommendations, people
Yeah.
love that. One of
Yeah.
my like go-to lines is like, "Hey, can I offer you a recommendation? Hey, can I give you a piece of advice?" And the
Mhm.
clients take it to heart every time. If I tell them, "Hey, don't go with return your premium," that's pushing it a little bit. If I tell them, "Hey, like in your case, what we'd probably do is called an index universal life, where you get a return on your money."
Yeah.
So if I offer these clients recommendations, they're like, "Wait, this guy's actually trying to help me." Or if
Yeah.
you offer them a recommendation, to bump them down an option. The biggest thing for me is consulting, helping the client, and using your knowledge on insurance to
And
really, really connect with them.
great word, consulting, right?
Mm,
We're here to solve problems. We're here to help the client. And, again, it goes back to what I say on every call is if you're doing what's in the best interest of the client,
exactly.
that it's not only going to retain the business, but it's also going to bring you more business, right?
Mm,
And people don't realize that. Something just happened to me Friday where I took care of a guy, and 10 minutes later he called me back, and I'm thinking, oh man, this guy is going to cancel. That was my
all right.
first thought, right? Why is he calling back within 10 minutes of the sell? He's like, hey, is it okay if my brother calls you? I was like, yeah, absolutely, right?
Absolutely, sir.
And it's just so crazy because like instead of where we were before, we were constantly trying to get the referral in kind of a bait and switch mode. And now
Yeah.
clients are just
Yeah.
offering, referrals to you
Hmm.
because you solved a problem. You helped them, and like you said, giving recommendations. Hey, I don't know if this is the best fit for you. Here's why. Here's what I would do, da 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 da, right? And they are looking to you for guidance because you are the expert in this field. Most of the time, these clients are not trained in how all this stuff works. They don't teach this in school.
Hmm.
I didn't learn anything about insurance through high school or grade school. Did you?
I didn't learn anything in high school or grade
Yeah,
school.
right. That's what I'm saying. So And it's a shame, right? Something that should be changed, but this is here and now. We are the doctor, and we're here to prescribe what's best for their situation to accomplish the goal that they want. So I think it's really cool that, you said consult. I think that was a perfect word for it.
And you know why that's such a big thing for me? It's this again, like it's for me, it's I don't forget. Like I have grudges against my failures. I will never forget them because for me, it's like I hate losing so
Yeah.
much to the point where it's gonna make me tear my hair out. So
Yeah.
there was one day at the practice company, I got on this presentation, absolute lay down. It was like the easiest sit ever. These clients were like ready to sign an application and everything, but I ran through probably the entire presentation in like 10 minutes,
Mhm.
like so fast, spat numbers at them. I was like, yeah, and then like I literally, I remember I saying like like word for word, I said, yeah, I'm just gonna pitch you some options here, and I was like, and I threw like a bunch of numbers at them, and they just like, yeah, we'll think about it. Never
Yeah.
saw him again, never heard from them again. And
Yeah.
Razi was sitting next to me the whole time. He looks at me, he says, hey, dude, I probably would have closed that. And I lost it. I almost wanted to tear my hair out. I was like,
Yeah.
what? And after that day, I started recording every presentation so I could sit there and listen to it and pick apart all my problems. Like, what did I say? What was wrong? What did the client not like? What threw them off? And that same day, I drove home, like a 30, 40-minute drive. And I'm just sitting there thinking of rebuttals. I'm like, what could I have said? What could I have said? What did I do wrong? I called Razi. I'm like, dude, what would you have done? Like, what should I have said? And I'm just like losing it. I was losing my mind over not making a sale. So that's why consulting is huge for me, because he told me if you consulted with them, if you asked them, actual questions to help them out, you probably would have closed them. But you were just
Yeah.
throwing numbers and information at them. They had no clue what was going on.
Yeah. Or felt confident about it, right?
Exactly. Right.
Even if they kind of knew, right? He said pitch. Yeah. Let's go with
Yeah.
somebody different,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool that you also talked about self-assessment, something that we really train really big here, and why it's important to like record yourself on your sits. Kind of talk about, or re-emphasize, if do you do the same thing with your agents? Tell them to record and listen to themselves, and if
Yes.
so,
So what we do is I have like I tell them to record it, and then we're supposed to sit down and go over all the bad sits together. Or good ones, bad ones, it doesn't matter. So if you're an upline, I would recommend this to your downline. If they're struggling, even if they're not struggling, if they want to up their game and increase their close rate, record every single sit that they're on. Sit down together for 15, 20 minutes, listen to it, and pick down the problems and take notes on it. I remember there was multiple times I would record it. I would sit down with Ion. I would sit down with Razi. I would have everybody listen to it and get multiple opinions on what should I have done, what did I do wrong. All right. And I have this huge notebook from the practice company. It's somewhere over here. Like I don't even know where it is, but it's just notes of all my failed sits. Just multiple pages of notes and notes and notes of like, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong.
It sounds like you're studying it just like an NFL player studies film
Exactly.
before the game,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
The greats watch film. The greats
Yep.
watch film of
All
not
day,
only
every day.
not only the people who beat them, but the people like their own film to see what they did wrong.
Yeah.
You have to watch the other team's film and your film, so you know what to expect and what to do.
I would go a little bit further than you and say that you should also watch the sits that you were successful in, because a lot
Yes.
of the times you don't realize you're saying things a certain way, and that's why you were successful. And then sometimes if you listen too much of your failures, you actually just, have the same behaviors or sentences that actually killed yourself, but you're just trying to reword it instead of actually listening to what you did, what was
Yep.
successful. And sometimes I think people miss that. But I think if you just listen to it, your own sit, and just ask, would I buy from me? That's going to tell you everything you really need to know. You're going to hear the tonalities if you're looking at it from a client perspective, and ask, would I buy, right? And if your answer is no, then you've probably picked out the reasons why while listening to it, right? And so
Exactly.
it's great that you work with your upline to figure it out also. But I think, that self-assessment piece, you're going to know. All the agents I've worked with, 9 out of 10 figured it out within listening to it, what they did wrong. And then I just had to agree with them and then give them maybe some rebuttals or something to sort of correct it.
Right.
But yeah, self-assessment is so huge. But yeah, definitely watch film. All right. In our business, listen to yourself. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
huge, bro. So we talked a little bit over the weekend about percentages of increase as far as leveling up to become a better salesperson. And something that you said to me, you had done the stat work of 5-10% difference, right? Can you kind of jump in and really explain from beginning to end to people here about what your thought process is about leveling up as a salesman. So like you've been here for a while, you've been doing this kind of
Yeah.
consistently, but you want to turn the page to another level.
Mhm.
Talk about how you help your team with that.
Yeah. So I'm even gonna jump back to the card counting analogy, right? So with the card counting, it's like what, a 2% edge over time, you'll make millions. It's
Yeah,
crazy, right? But
right.
over time, that 2% adds up.
Yeah.
So with being a good salesman, I'm gonna be brutally honest with you guys. It doesn't matter how good you are at sales, it only changes about 5 to 10% of your conversations, realistically. Most of your people are either laydowns or no's from the get-go, and you can't change that. All right. A lot
Mhm.
of the times that is the case. All right. You can't get, Michael, who's not interested and already has a $2 million of life insurance, to listen to you for more than 30 seconds on the phone. It's not going to happen. Okay. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter, what you say. 90% of the time, that guy's not going to talk to you. Okay. But 10% of the time, there are clients that you have to switch over. There are clients you have to move, and clients you have to use your own skill and your own knowledge to not persuade them, but properly inform them to the point where it's very difficult for them to say no. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is like there's peddling for sales, and then there's making the sale, which is like you made the product, fit them to the point where it doesn't make sense to say no. The second it doesn't make sense to say no, they have to take the product. People don't like looking stupid.
Yeah.
That's why I ask them a lot of questions that don't make them look stupid, but make them
Think.
look stupid.
Yeah.
where it's like, I'm like, I ask them questions that kind of pressure questions. One of my go-tos is like, hey, like, is this money an adjustment, or would this take food off the table? Because 90% of the time, when you do get into that 10%, 90% of the time, the objection is price, right?
Mhm.
People hate the price. They want a lower price. They want to, more
Yeah.
coverage, whatever it may be. And the first thing I do every time is nail the price. I nail the price head on. If they say want to think about it, they want to look it over, or they don't want to go with it, they don't want this coverage, I just nail the price right away. I'm like, all right, is this an adjustment, or do you think this will take food off the table? All right. And the way you say it matters. So I would be like, hey, like, Paul, all right, I just want you to be brutally honest with me, because it seems like this is a plan that will work for you. But for that $82.42 on a monthly basis, is that an adjustment for you? Or do you think that would kind of take food off of the table? And then they're going to tell you, 90% of the time, it's an adjustment. I mean, yeah, it'd be okay. Right. Because if you
Yeah.
told me it was going to take food off the table, I'd say, hey, don't do it. Right. That's probably not a good idea. All right.
Yeah.
But since you told me it won't, since you told me it would just be an adjustment, something a little comfortable, let's get you started on that lower option. And then down the line, when things get a little more open, there's more room to wiggle, we can always upgrade to the first option. Okay. Now they're like, oh, this guy cares about me. And using that same script I just said, like literally those lines and nothing else, I think I did at least like 4 or 5 sales last month. Like just that line. It's like, it's insane what it does
Yeah.
when you just talk to your clients and say, like, hey, like, I'm trying to help you. I care about you. So yeah, like, and again, those kind of lines really only changes about 5 to 10% of your game. But think about 10% of sales after a million AP year.
Mhm.
Think 10% of sales after you made 100,000 in a year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in the long run, the dude who does that 10%, who focuses on that 10%, who hones their sales skills, watches those YouTube videos, learns those objections, handles rebuttals, they're gonna beat an application writer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's something that you said there that kind of like stood out for me too, is it's amazing how scared people are just to be kind of like cut through the tension or the air in a call, and just being coming from a place of concern to help the client, right?
Exactly.
Like you said, is this going to be an adjustment, or is this taking food off the table for you, right? Some people are afraid because they're afraid of, we've been conditioned not to talk about finances,
Hmm.
but that's what this entire conversation is about. So why would you be afraid to talk about it? You know what I mean? Like you're
Exactly.
literally making sure that when they pass, that it's going to take care of their finances. So don't be afraid to kind of just jump in there. Because again, if you're coming from a place of concern or from love, people are going to feel it. They're going to understand it, and it's not going to be offensive, right? And I
Exactly.
think that also makes the difference between, a regular salesperson and a great salesperson, right? But yeah, man, I thought that was awesome that you brought that up. That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Anybody here kind of had that difficulty? Throw a one in the chat where you felt a little bit nervous about figuring out whether or not that particular price was comfortable for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
got
common thing.
very common. Yeah, a
Mhm.
lot. And then put a 2 in the chat if you still feel uncomfortable about it. Just a couple. All right. So you have two ways you deal with it. That was one. What's your second way? Just so the second way might fit some of the other people here.
My second one is a little more aggressive, but this is where I kind of put them on the spot, and
Mhm.
I like to just make them. I like to have them open up to me. Okay. And the biggest thing is it's not really like a one-liner. It's not really something you can just do. This is a
Mhm.
buildup of the way you've treated them over the call. Okay, your tonality, the way you sounded, the way you were talking with them, the rapport you built, everything is going to add up into one moment, and that determines whether the client is going to open up to you or not. Okay. Sales, all it is getting the client to open up to you. All right, are they going to tell me their real problems, or are they going to give me a smokescreen objection and not be honest with me? You know, a lot of times clients, you get to the bank account number and the client's like, oh, I want to think about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to think about it, or is it the bank account number? Which one is it? Because
Yeah.
if you want to think about it, that's fine. We'll send you your application. I'll put the draft date out 2 weeks. We can do plenty of thinking. Or is it that you don't want to give me your bank account number?
Yeah.
Don't let these smoke screens get in front of you and confuse you. Okay, attack the objections head on. Find out what's really the problem. Okay, the client says they want it in the mail. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean they want to sit there and get these documents in paper and stare at them for 2 hours? No. That means the client doesn't have enough information to make a decision. You screwed up somewhere and didn't give them enough info to help them make this decision.
Yeah.
So if the client says something, you have to find out what it really means. And that's my second way of doing it, is breaking through the smoke screen. Okay. A client says, yeah, I want to think about it. I just have to, check everything, right? I'll let you know in a couple of days, right? And then I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. And, my job here as, the insurance professional, assigned to your case, it's my job to help you fully understand, this information and make sure that I can help you make an educated decision, And at the end of the day, it's usually due to a misinformation or a lack of information where that's usually what makes you struggle to make this kind of decision. So what
Yeah.
can I help you understand better? What can I clear up for you? Do you have any other questions? Is there something I misexplained, something you're unsure about? And now they're going to be like, now they're thinking. Now the gears are turning in their brain, right? Because they're like, yeah, so with the accidental cover, and now there's like a load of questions, and now you're like back in it, and the way of doing that, I'm sure this is a common one. You guys know all of this. Lower their guard first. So reschedule the appointment and then ask them what their questions are. So you're gonna reschedule the appointment, be like, oh, absolutely, we'll talk next week. Throw them down
Why
for
talk about why it's important to lower their God, I just lost it in my head.
lower their guard.
Their guard, yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it important to start with the rescheduling instead of just jumping in?
The second you lower their guard, now these people think you're on their side. These people think you really care about what they want to do, and they think you're working with them. The second you lower somebody's guard, they will open up to you. They will tell you the real problems. Okay. I'll even go back to a separate example. I've called clients before where they answer the phone, they're like, I'm good. I don't want it. I don't need mortgage protection. And I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely, John. Yeah, I was just closing out your case. I have to put a few notes down on here just so we can put it in the system so you stop getting these calls. What is John thinking now? This guy's not trying to sell me. He's trying to close my case. He's trying to stop me from getting calls.
Yeah.
This guy's on my side. He's not pitching mortgage protection at me.
Yeah.
And I ask him, yeah, John, what ended up happening last time? Did you speak to somebody, or did you ever get this set up? And now John's like, yeah, this guy came out to my house. The prices were ridiculous. It was $400 a month. And I'm like, John, that might have been someone from a different company, because I work with 40 companies. My job is to find the lowest price for you.
Yeah.
And now John's like, oh, and now he's not coming at me. His guard's not up. He's not trying to fight me anymore.
Right.
And now he's okay with it. So lowering somebody's guard will get them to open up to you and tell you their real problems. If I said, hey, did you ever get a mortgage protection plan? Yeah, I'm just reaching out to help you get one of these set. Boop, he's gone. Hey, John, I'm just closing out your file. Help me out here for a second. Do you know what happened last time? Did you speak to somebody? I just want to make sure you stop getting these calls so we can get this taken care of for you.
Mm.
Right? Now these people don't even think about the sale. They don't even think you're trying to sell them.
Throw a one in the chat if that helps you guys, because that was a nugget right there. Yeah, look I bet you a lot of people have not used that one yet.
It's a good one. It's a good one. That gets me a lot of appointments, a boatload of appointments. It's genuinely ridiculous how many clients I'm able to get from that. And actually, funnily enough, that was how we got our annuity client. He was originally a no, don't want mortgage protection, leave me alone. I have $1.2 million in Primerica life insurance. I was like, I get it, man, I get it. Like, it's just my job to go over this information with you. I'm just trying to close out your file. Like let's just go over what happened when last time you got a call. He ended up actually listening to half of the sit. He's like, all right, let's see. Like, what is this about? How much does it cost? Blah, blah, blah. I got him to the financial questionnaire, and he was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. He's like, screw this. But then I jumped back, and I was like, you had a 401k, though, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I have a 401k and IRA, and I'm like, all right, cool, cool. And I feel like there's some stupid 401k line to him. I was like, yeah, I mean, there's a way to grow that money without any downside. He's like, yeah, I'm good. But he's like, hey, do you guys do IULs? And I was like, oh. I was like, yeah, sir, I'm actually an expert in IULs. I had never, ever in my life pitched an IUL or talked about IULs before that. Yeah, I'm one of our IUL experts, sir. I'd be happy to help you. What questions do you have? He's like, yeah, I was just looking for like a policy with cash value, something to loan against, something to,
Yeah.
help my family. And then we ran the IUL with him, pitched him annuity, and he loved both of them. And he saw that it wasn't me just trying to sell him, I was trying to help him.
Yeah.
I asked him about his 401k. I said, how's it been doing? I was like, do you see this on your 401k here, your IRA? It's like if it goes down, you lose a lot of money,
Mhm.
And a lot of people had that scare last month, I believe, that little dip in the market you all
It
saw.
did, yeah, last month.
I've
Yeah.
been using that in all of my calls, and it's like working like a gem. He tells people like, yeah, the market peaked in July. We're not fiduciary financial advisors. You can't talk about stuff like that, right? But you can help these clients in a way where you can genuinely help protect their futures. Talk to people about what they've built up and be like, hey, like, I'm just trying to help you protect your assets. And now
Yeah.
they're like market peaked last month. That's all I'm saying. And now they're like, oh, this guy's onto something,
For sure, man. Yeah, it's crazy if you think about, I don't know how many people are really cerebral on the financial markets and things in the
Yeah.
world, right? But if you read about 401ks and the guy that created it, it was never created to be a retirement fund. It was only created to be an additional fund after retirement. But
Yeah.
now companies' dream of is supposed to be a retirement, right? And back when I used to work for a company, and I was what they called a contract specialist, where I worked with the union also, and I helped guys retire. And in 2008, 2009 crash, I saw a lot of people come back
yeah.
to work that were initially retired because they had, either the Enron investments or 401ks and mutual funds that were heavy in that, and
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
killed them, their entire ability for retirement.
Mhm.
And that was really sad, but it was also very eye-opening for me being a young man. Like, hey, man, you cannot depend on any one thing. You definitely want to make sure your portfolio is
100%.
diversified, right? So, yeah, it was crazy. I remember just thinking to myself, man, that's sad. You just spent, 35, 40 years working, and you thought everything was great, and then boom, back to work.
Yeah.
That's tough for people. And
It's
even
rough.
now, think about all the people we talk to currently that are just on a fixed income of Social Security, and with the rents and the cost of food and everything rising, how do they survive? A lot of people,
Barely.
I have no clue how they do it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so, yeah, IULs, annuities, and other forms, I think, is a great thing for people to know and have knowledge of these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, let's say I always like to end, what's three things, right, that you feel like the people on our team, it's something that would be of value to them that you could provide? Like, what's three lessons or wisdom that you could pass on to everybody?
One, we do a lot of training. We do training Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour every
Mhm.
time. You guys want to join in, listen in, whatever it may be, you can. We're in Sushi House every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Central. And I do a lot of interactive training, meaning I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm gonna push it on you. I'm gonna make people give answers instead of waiting for answers. Almost kind of like a classroom kind of environment. So we train like the Navy SEALs, we like to call it. We go hard and we make sure that people understand these concepts, like what it takes to make good sales. That's the
But
first one.
but is there sushi?
No, there's not sushi,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay. There was
No.
a long pause there. I didn't know.
I was processing. I'm like, is there? Oh my god, sushi. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and
All
then
right.
go to the weekly trainings. Show up to
Mhm.
Paul's call. You probably learned something today. I don't know. I don't really know too much. Show
Yeah.
up to this call. Show up to the back to basics. The ramble sesh, everything like that. The level up call. The level up calls have given me a lot of information, honestly, about like what I should actually know about
Man,
this
I
kind of
love
insurance.
Level Up. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. And yes, Chase, Tuesday, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Central. Just about every week. We rarely miss those. I don't think we ever have. But yeah, so we train hard. All right, that's the first thing. Second thing is expand product knowledge, right? This isn't me specifically, but this is like my piece of advice. Is the only reason that I am getting so many clients and getting so many like presentations and whatnot is because and I learned this from Ty, and Ty taught me a lot. So I learned this from Ty is that if you learn every direction to take the sale, there's going to be at least one direction per person that they want to go. They might not take it, but if you think about all the products we have to offer, we have like life insurance, we have annuities, we have like index universal lives to help people kind of plan for the future and get their family together. Or even they could open a policy on their kid, or even like accidental coverage to pair it with a payment plan to make them actually want the coverage.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many ways you can go about, you know, getting the client what they want, that the more you know, the more sales you will make. You know what the scary part is? Everyone's going to hate to hear this. Everyone's going to hate it. All of you in this call have probably talked to like 5-10 annuity clients, but you have no clue.
None whatsoever.
You have no idea who you spoke to. You didn't ask enough questions. You've probably spoken to all of those annuity clients, but you don't even know it. That's the scary part.
The scary part is nobody really does a good enough job on financial inventory to know. Right? Yeah, it's so important to hit that financial inventory sheet. And if you don't know what it is, hit us up afterwards. But that sheet's going to give you all the nuggets you need to know whether they're an annuity candidate or not. Yeah, that's fire. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Expand your knowledge to the point where whatever they need, you can give it to them, because there's something they need. Now, very rarely, I ran into my first guy who actually didn't need anything. It made me lose my mind. This was like Thursday or Friday night. I called this guy, and he has $20 million of whole life. Goldman Sachs manages all his funds, and he's a partner at a private equity firm. So way out of my league. I'm sitting there cold calling him like, hey man, like let's get you an IUL, like let's get you more returns on your money. This guy looks at the $20 million and says to me, that's inconsequential.
Yeah.
I was like, 20 million is inconsequential for you? Blew my mind. This guy was looking at me like I was an ant, and I was like, all right, I can't beat this guy. But so yeah, that's what it comes down to. Just your knowledge will go far.
At least you got to talk to the guy. I've never even had a client that was nowhere near in that realm, you know.
Craziest client I've ever met. And the scariest part was the way he was talking, like his tone of voice. I was like, this guy's rich. This is scary. I was like, I was concerned. I was like, this guy has more money than
kind of condescending when he talked to you.
Yes. It was genuinely scary the way he was talking to me. I was like, oh God, you know. But there's that. And then the third thing, I guess, that I do is I feel like most of the reason for my success is that I work a lot harder than most people. Like, and I don't mean I work longer. I'm sitting here on the call till 11, though I did do that a few times when I started. But when I'm on the call, I am like locked in like 100 dials an hour or more. Like I am going in. I follow up with all my missed appointments. All right, so I'll break down my daily schedule, because this is how I want people to this is how I want my agents to operate, at least. Okay. I get on the call at 8:30. Okay. My first thing is I don't want to like get on the call and start talking to people. I'm like half asleep still. I wake up at like 8 a.m. I'm like half asleep still. I'm like sitting there like drinking water and whatnot. First thing I do is I go in my calendar and I start chasing down a bunch of missed appointments. Religious follow-up in the morning, every morning. The first thing you should do, go catch all the clients that slipped through the cracks. All the people who dinged on bank account number, all the people who didn't want to give you personal information, all the people who didn't show up to their appointments. Call them, see what you can find. A lot of my sales are missed appointments, a lot of them. So dig through the missed appointments. Middle of the day, I take a little break to get my stuff back together, do what I need to do. I usually hit the gym, or you don't have to. It's up to you what you want to do. Take a lunch, whatever you need to do. Take a little midday break. Clear your head for a minute. Do something that clears your head. Something that's going to, reset you for the evening. All right. Get back on the call for the afternoon. I'm dialing, trying to get as many appointments for the night. Right. And that's also what I'm doing for like most of the morning. All right. So like I'd say 8:30 to 9:30, missed appointments. 9:30 to 12, hardcore dialing, trying to set appointments for the day. 12 to 2, I'm on like a break. And then for the rest of the day, I'm either calling clients or running appointments. And that goes till about 8, 9 p.m.
8, 9 p.m. Okay, I was going to ask, when do you end your day? Okay.
Hey, but just so you guys know, and Harold witnessed this, Elijah witnessed this, Garrett witnessed this. I remember they were all in the Zoom with me like my first few days. I was on the call till like 10 or 11 every night, like sitting there tearing my hair out, trying to figure out why I couldn't close. That was in like my first few days here, I was like ripping my hair out because I was trying to figure out how to close. And
I noticed you keep saying ripping your hair out. You still got a pretty good,
for now,
head of hair.
For now, it's gonna be gone. Probably.
Is it on the back? Is that where we're ripping it out at?
Yeah, it's coming. It's going for sure. But yeah, 100%. But yeah, I think just spend time on the call, religious follow up with your clients. Follow that schedule. That's like the third nugget I'd say I have. Stay structured. Otherwise, you're gonna lose yourself at some point.
For sure, man. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for, jumping on the call. I really appreciate you coming out and being a guest with me. And we hope to have you back again. Is that good with you?
Absolutely, man. 100%.
All right, man. Well, everyone else, hey, man, thanks. And we'll see you guys again next Monday.